cut or snap off the new construction flange and dispose of it. In new construction, nail the tab to the stud. Use a level, then measure and create a precise box using these dimensions. Take a utility knife and score the outside lines. Then, use the utility knife or a drywall saw to cut a hole through the drywall. Now it's time for some fittings. Make sure the open end faces the direction it will eventually meet the tubing, usually straight down. If your tubing has to run from the attic, remember that the opening of the 90-degree fitting will have to face upward. When applying glue, never apply it to the inside of fittings or tubing. Apply glue only to the outside of the tubing. This will prevent glue from creating obstructions inside the tubing, which could clog your system. Put some glue around the outside of the mounting bracket. Then twist the 90-degree fitting into place. You will need to install the low voltage wire before you install the tubing. First, run about 6 inches of wire through the bracket guide hole. Then, strip an inch of insulation from the low voltage wires and attach each end to one of the screws on the back of the inlet valve. Now, attach a weight to the end of the low voltage wire and drop it down to the basement or crawl space. Gently insert the mounting bracket into the wall hole, first down, then up, centering it. Get a wire hanger and insert the hooked end of the hanger down into the 90-degree elbow to hold the bracket in place. Then slide the inlet valve into the mounting bracket. Now just screw the valve into place. A word of caution, inlet kits come with both long and short screws, so be sure to use the short screw in the hole facing the elbow since the long screw could puncture it. Remember to refer to the manual for full details. If you can't locate a hollow wall or the space between your walls isn't wide enough, there are 2 alternatives. The first, as we've already discussed, is to run the tubing through a concealed area such as the inside of a closet, then run the tubing downward. The other is to forget the wall entirely and use a floor-mounted inlet. For 2-story homes, you'll need 1 or more inlets on each floor. Instead of trying to line up inlets from one floor to the next, the easiest and best way to handle 2nd-story inlets is to run a separate line from the upstairs inlet valve to another branch or to the main trunk line. Upstairs, beneath the site you selected for the inlet, cut a hole just large enough to allow you to reach the 2nd floor sole plate. Then, from the basement, insert a length of tubing long enough to reach through the hole in the 2nd floor sole plate to the site for the valve. Your goal is to fit the top of the tubing inside the inlet valve installed in the 2nd-story wall. Of course, installing the inlet valve is the same as before. And remember, other ways to reach the upstairs in your home are through the interiors of closets or pantries, beneath a staircase, or with floor inlets. If you're planning to install a sweep inlet, an automatic dustpan, a very popular option for the kitchen, mudroom, and bath, here are some pointers. First, determine the best place to install the sweep inlet, usually beneath a cabinet, and remove any molding or baseboard. Then drill a pilot hole and find the wire in the floor below. Once again, drill up through the floor to check for obstructions and to make sure you can connect the tubing to the main line. If there are no obstructions, enlarge the hole in the floor beneath the cabinet and check the clearances. Now return to the kitchen to measure and saw the rectangular hole for the sweep inlet and fasten the inlet into place. In the basement, attach the tubing and string the low voltage wire just as you would for any inlet. Okay, we're in the home stretch. Time to install the tubing. Run the tubing up through the hole you cut in the sole plate and fit the tubing into the elbow joint in the back of the inlet valve above you. One of the most crucial things you'll need to do is make absolutely straight cuts. Angled cuts can lead to crooked tubing and gaps that reduce suction power, or to pockets that could accumulate dirt and clog or block the tubing. Remember, 3/4 of an inch on each end of the tubing will go into a fitting, so take that into consideration when measuring and cutting. And be sure to file and deburr each end of the tubing with a knife or file before you fit it into place. Next, just apply glue to the tubing only and twist it tightly into the fitting. Now, all you need to do is measure each section of tubing according to what you need. Measure, cut, deburr, glue, and connect. It's a good idea to piece together 2 or 3 sections of tubing without glue at first to make sure things fit properly. Then mark the connections so you put them together the same way. While assembling the tubing, use clamps to hold the sections in place. Wherever you connect to an inlet, you'll also have to connect the wiring. Strip the wires and join one from each inlet to the wire leading to the power unit. To make sure the polarity is right, always attach wires of the same color to each other, typically copper to copper and silver to silver. To hold low voltage wire in place, use these nifty do-it-yourself clamps made by cutting the ends off any extra tubing. If you have 2 runs of tubing, you'll want to join them to the trunk line going to the power unit. These sweep T fittings are included for that purpose. But a word of caution, always make sure the curve in the fitting points toward the power unit. Otherwise, dirt, dust, and debris could accumulate and block the tubing. If you have to drill through blocks or concrete, you'll probably have to rent a hammer drill or masonry hole saw. Then, run the tubing through and patch the hole once you're up and running. Before drilling, check your local building code for special firewall penetration regulations. Your code will also tell you if steel tubing is required. Now, hang the power unit on the mounting bracket. Connect the low voltage wires to the power unit using the supplied connectors. Then plug the power unit into the dedicated electrical outlet. The sentry light should come on. Flip the switch and the power unit should come to life. With all systems go, attach the last section of tubing to the power unit. Do not glue this section because you may need to disconnect the system at some future date. And if your system came with a muffler, clamp it to the exhaust pipe. Installing a muffler can reduce power unit noise by as much as 50%. All that's left to do is check the quality of your installation. First, check to see if you have a closed system. With no hose or handle attached and all inlet valves closed, there should be little or no air coming through the exhaust on the power unit. Now with the system running, walk through your home. If you hear whistling or hissing, you may have forgotten to glue a connection. Be sure to check the basement and attic areas too. Have your helper plug the hose into each of the inlet valves to be sure you can turn the power on. Turn off the switch on the hose handle. If it does not shut off, the low voltage wires are crossed somewhere, usually at an inlet valve. That's it. You've just installed your own central vacuum system. You've just made cleaning easier while improving the air quality in your home. Congratulations!